Hey guys, Patrick here with another martial arts opinion piece for you guys. And today I'm going to give my opinion on touch sparring. Now, what is touch sparring? Touch sparring is when in striking, both people are going extremely light, for those of you who don't know, and they just like tap each other. Like every strike has literally zero power behind it, and it's just a tap. And I've had a couple of these types of spars before, and based on my experience with them and what I've seen with them overall, it's sort of a double-edged sword because on one hand, it's a good chance to get like extra sparring in because you can't be striking full force or even half power to each other all the time because there's the chance you could injure each other. But on the other hand, touch sparring lets you get away with like a lot of shit that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. To give an example, I was once regular sparring with a friend of mine, and there was a point where he went for a body blow, and I hit him in the head basically. And were that a touch spar, what would have happened is we would have exchanged blows, like tap tap, okay? But because it wasn't a touch spar, what happened was he went for a body blow, and I struck him in the head, and it pushed him back outwards because it countered him because it was the force of him coming and clashing against my fist, basically. So it nullified him, okay? It nullified what that attack would have done if, you know what I mean, I didn't do that. And again, if that were a touch spar, he's not going to react like he got hit because it was just a tap, so it would have just been like boom, boom. And you know what I mean? And maybe he wouldn't have learned that that's not a safe angle to do that at or whatever. And that's what I mean when I say that touch spars let you get away with a lot of shit that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And what I hadn't thought about it in a long time because I actually haven't had a touch spar in a long time. But I recently actually saw a Kung Fu guy touch sparring with an MMA guy, and it made the MMA guy sort of start to come around to Kung Fu and be like, oh yeah, maybe there is some things because he was doing some stuff in the touch spar. And then that reminded me of when I used to touch spar with some Kung Fu dudes, there's just certain shit in there that I saw the same stuff that I experienced. I saw the same stuff, and I even had the same thoughts of like, well, maybe this stuff works. And then you see what it would be like in actuality, and it doesn't work. And to give you some examples of some stuff that wouldn't work that I've seen inexperienced Kung Fu dudes do, is one example is blocking kicks and like parrying kicks and shit like that with just your arms and shit like that. Obviously you can't do that because one of two things is going to happen. If you go to block a kick with a forearm, with just the forearm, one of two things will happen. Either your forearm will fucking break, just straight up or it won't break, but the kick will pass right through anyway and hit you. Those are the two most likely scenarios. Your opponent would have to be quite a bit smaller than you for them to throw a full power roundhouse kick and for you to easily block it with just your arm. That, you know what I mean? There's a reason in Muay Thai it's like this, and like kickboxing and shit is like everything is sort of like curled up and cradled into each other and like braced because the full force of that kick coming is fucking dangerous. You know what I mean? So you have to really like put everything behind the block. So if you're just doing this as opposed to your whole body, that's really dangerous, okay? But it's a touch spar, so the kick stops here because that's where the point of contact was. Another example of that is like striking shit that doesn't really work. And what I mean by that is, again, since it's a touch spar, any touch counts as a strike. So, for instance, I've seen some shit where it's like, to give an example, it's like, boom, like a palm heel strike down, and then back up into a back fist, like boom, boom. Okay, like so it's like oh boom, 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 like oh all these hits in a row and shit like that. But in actuality, how much force are those strikes going to have? Because from this angle, this palm heel strike wouldn't do any damage at all, and then back up into this back fist. Yeah, this might sting or whatever, but that's not gonna like do any significant damage. That's what I mean when I say you can get away with that shit, because in reality, you know, a person could just walk right through those attacks, because this is nothing. Also in this video I was talking about earlier, the MMA fighter in question said, you know, when he was coming around to Kung Fu, he was like, if you can do it light, you can do it right. And I disagree with that statement entirely. I believe the opposite, in fact, where just because you can do it light doesn't necessarily mean you can do it right. Because when the lights are on you and your adrenaline's pumping and you're fucking ready to fucking go, you know, your level of skill is going to drop to your lowest level of training, basically. So if all you've done is fucking touch spar, okay, and then you get into a fight where you're actually getting hit, it's not going to translate very well. So in conclusion, guys, my opinion on touch sparring is I don't really like it. It could be a useful training tool to two really high level or just people with basic fundamental striking, but in any other scenario, I wouldn't say that it works for all of the reasons I had just mentioned. All right, guys, I've been Patrick, and I'll see you next time.